James Carter and Nora Ellis lived in Boise, Idaho, a city hugged by the Boise River and framed by the rugged foothills of the Oahe Mountains, where the skies stretched wide and the seasons painted the land in bold strokes. They spent 26 years married, their days a blend of comfort and quiet strain, until, at 50, in the crisp light of February 2022, they let go, not with a crash of anger, but with a shared breath, a release from a life that had settled into dust. They'd raised 2 sons, owned a ranch-style house near in Morrison Park, and built a world tied by habit and hearth. He was a park ranger, his boots worn from trails, his hands steady with maps and binoculars. She ran a flower shop, her fingers green with soil, arranging blooms that brightened homes across the Treasure Valley. By their late 40s, that world had dulled to a murmur, their love a river run dry. This is their story, a tender parting after decades, a flight through uncertainty, and a soaring renewal by 53, set against the wild, open heart of Idaho. James met Nora in 1995 at a farmer's market on 8th Street. Both 24, both drawn to the bustle of stalls and the tang of early summer air. He wore a ranger uniform, a thermos of coffee in hand, his sandy hair ruffled from a morning patrol along the Greenbelt. She stood at her table, a slim figure in a denim apron, her chestnut hair loose, surrounded by vases of daisies and lavender she'd grown herself. They talked about the river's gleam under the sun, about his love for the wild spaces he guarded, about her joy in coaxing life from seeds. He bought a bouquet, their hands brushing over the stems, and asked her out as the market hummed, the sky a clear blue above. She smiled, warm and earthy, and said yes. A year later, in June 1996, they married in a meadow near Bogus Basin, his boots muddy, her dress dotted with wildflowers, the wind-carrying pine scent as friends raised tin cups in toast. He promised to guide their path. She vowed to nurture its growth. For years, they rooted that pledge deep. Their sons arrived like mountain storms. Ethan in 1998, a wiry boy with James's lanky frame and a taste for adventure. Then Owen in 2000, gentler, with Nora's hazel eyes and a knack for drawing. James traded dawn patrols for dusk campfires, his voice steady, as he taught the boys to spot deer tracks or pitch a tent. Nora tended her shop, brought home cuttings, the house alive with Ethan's shouts and Owen's sketches pinned to the fridge. In 2002, they bought the ranch, a single-story sprawl with a tin roof, a wide deck facing the foothills, and a yard where sagebrush met grass. James built a fire pit, hauled logs, his truck bed dented from ranger duties. Nora planted a garden, roses, sunflowers, herbs, her shop's overflow spilling into pots along the porch. They fished the Boise River as a family, Ethan casting wild, Owen sketching the banks, the water cold against their legs. Money stretched thin, winters iced the pipes, but the house stood, a root in their soil. The roots began to wither. By their 40s, James and Nora felt the ground shift. Ethan left for Boise State in 2017, studying forestry, his room a cache of maps and hiking boots. Owen followed in 2019, off to Portland for design, his pencils and pads left behind. The ranch hushed, its boards creaking louder than footsteps, the fire pit cold. James roamed farther, Lucky Peak, Table Rock, his binoculars scanning, his talk fitting to grunts when he trudged home. Long shift, Nora, need to rest. She buried herself in the shop, arranging bouquets, teaching workshops, her chatter fading to sighs as she sank into a chair. Busy day, Jim, you know how it is. He'd suggest, let's hike Schaefer Butte, see the stars, or how about supper at Barbacoa? But she'd wave off, too tired, maybe later. They ate apart, slept apart, the garden patchy, their voices lost in the wind off the hills. By 2020, he took the den, its couch stiff, the window framing arranged they'd forgotten. The release came gentle in February 2022. James was 50, his hands rough from years of trails and tools, his sandy hair graying under a ranger cap. Nora was 52, her fingers stained from decades of pedals, her hazel eyes dulled by routine. He just cleared a path near Hull's Gulch, the snow crunching underfoot, when he found her in the kitchen, trimming stems, her apron dusted with pollen. "We're not growing anymore," he said, his voice soft as the river's flow. She looked up, her scissors still, her gaze steady. "I know, Jim, we're just bare, aren't we?" He nodded, slow and sure. "Yeah, Nora, we are. It's time to let go." They sat on the deck, the air sharp with winter, the foothills dark against the sky, and agreed, 26 years was a season done. No fights, no blame, just a root that wouldn't hold, a life to replant. They parted with a hug, her cheek cold against his, a last leaf fallen. Divorce at 50 was a bare branch. They sold the ranch, too vast with memory, and split the take even. Nora moved to an apartment near downtown, a cozy space with a balcony, her flowers in pots by the rail. James rented a cabin near the Boise foothills, a rough-hewn place with log walls, a window-spilling ridge light, a rack for his gear. Ethan called from Boise, "Dad, Mom, why now, what dried up?" Owen texted from Portland, "I get it, love you both." Friends split. Some stayed with Nora, buying her blooms, others met James for beers at Payette Brewing. The first year was a frost. James patrolled in a haze, his trails clear, but his spirit tangled, night sped pacing the cabin, the wind through junipers a call he couldn't hear. Nora arranged in a blur, her bouquets bright, but her heart heavy, evenings on her balcony, the river's shimmer a root she couldn't water. They missed the boys, each other's quiet steps, the ranch's hum in a storm. Wings lifted in 2023. At 51, James joined a fly fishing club. A spark after a hiker raved about the rivers, his hands trading maps for rods, casting lines into the south fork of the Boise. He flailed, his cast sloppy from years on land, but he stayed, hooked on the tug, the ripple, the dance of trout beneath. The group was rugged, retirees, a young guide, a widow named Leah who fished with a steady flick and a thermos of cocoa. They met weekends, wading streams, the sun glinting off the water, ospreys soaring overhead. James bought a rod, a bamboo beauty with a worn grip, and fished solo one dawn, the river waking in gold as he landed a cutthroat. It wasn't big, but it flew, a wing unfurled. Nora, at 51, took up birdwatching, binoculars from a co-op on Grove Street, her hands swapping shears for lenses, spotting finches and hawks in Catherine Albertson Park. She stumbled, her eyes slow to focus, but she kept at it. Her first sighting, a cedar waxwing, logged in a notebook, its red tips a new bloom. By 52, they were soaring. James sold his truck, bought a camper, a silver Airstream with a hitch, and towed it to the Sawtooths, his rod rattling, the peaks rising sharp and white. He wasn't fast, anglers passed, Leah teased, but speed didn't matter. The cast did, the river's song a new trail to follow. He started a journal, Rivers and Wings, writing about divorce, fish, and the lift of open water, his words steady as his old maps. Rangers read it, then strangers, folks in Twin Falls, McCall, a guy in Montana saying, "I'm casting too." Nora traded her van for a bike, a red cruiser with a bell, and pedaled the greenbelt, her binoculars swinging, the wind cool on her face. She joined a gardening club, planting natives, lupin, sage, her hands steady with the new soil. Ethan visited James, saw the rod, grinned, "You're flying, Dad." Owen saw Nora's notebook, hugged her, "You're blooming, Mom." At 53, They found their wings. James cut ranger shifts, guided fishing trips, casting lessons, river tales, his voice warm, his boots wet with stories of currents. He camped at Redfish Lake one fall, fished under stars, woke to a dawn that fired the water pink, his airstream a perch on wheels. Nora scaled back the shop, led bird walks, warblers, kestrels, her notebook thick with sightings, her garden spilling over with color. She biked to Barber Park, floated the river, the sun hot on her skin. They weren't rich. His camper smelled of fish and pine, her apartment of earth and tea. They weren't famed. His journal had 460 readers. Her walk stayed local. But they were James and Nora, free, alive, aloft. They met once, by chance at a market in 2025, him with a trout sketch, her with a potted sage. They smiled, swapped notes, parted like two wings in flight. Divorce at 50 stripped us bare, they'd say now, their voices bright. It gave us wings to rise. Across America, from Boise's rivers to every open plain, couples like James and Nora let go every day. Gray divorces aren't falls, they're lifts. I'm Jordan Lane, and this is Gray Divorce Diaries. Their tale is real, wild, warm, winged. If it lifts you, subscribe. Every day, a new story. People like us, soaring after 50. You're not alone. Let's take your flight together.